ran a startup incubator called Lab 360 that we accelerate startups. So there's a lot of things to gain to learn about building a successful startup, and funding is a critical part to get things started. So we have very interesting speakers today to talk about dilution-free funding. So the being in the well, now being virtual, so that means that we could have people logging in from all over the world listening to this webinar. So in the past, we used to have face-to-face meeting, and so Silicon Valley actually is a group of cities together from Palo Alto all the way down to San Jose. So we used to have these face-to-face meetings, and that's why we call it the Silicon Valley Startup Special Interest Group, is to be able to network with the people locally and also bring education webinar like this to get people who are thinking to be entrepreneurs, or people who are already entrepreneurs, or people who are serial entrepreneurs who came back and actually give advice to the startups. So we already have a couple of webinars. The first one actually is kicked off with 3 serial entrepreneurs in the consumer electronics space. And then the last webinar is on finding co-founders and building your startup. And this talk will be on dilution-free funding. So just a real quick, the second slide, just talk about upcoming events. And we still haven't fixed the date that we'll have a corporate lawyer who's going to give a talk about forming a venture-backed company and what are the legals and structures. And then in December, we have a IEEE event focusing on, it's a startup event. It's going to be focusing on innovation around COVID-19, and details will be shared shortly. So at this point, I'd like to pass it back to Wenbo Yan, who's been putting a lot of effort in organizing some of these activities. So he's going to describe a little bit about the organization, young professional within IEEE to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Joseph. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the event. I'm Wenbo. I'm the co-chair for IEEE Santa Clara Valley Young Professionals. YP is an organization where we host social, technical, and networking events, especially targeted to those who graduated within the past 15 years. Some of our social events include happy hour and hiking. That was back when COVID-19 set in, as well as volunteering events typical of every Christmas, and board game nights, which we can now do virtually. We also have technical events. In the past, we've had talks on hardware, software, robotics, AI, or other topics that our members generally are very interested in. And last but not least, networking events is a major pillar, and we typically have networking events as a part of our major conference, including ISSCC, GHCC, and other events. So please follow us on our meetup or our website, and our mailing list between IEEE YP and the Startup Special Interest Group is shared. So if you sign up for a mailing list as a part of the Eventbrite, or if you follow us on the meetup after the event, you'll be notified for both events in our organizations. It's my pleasure to welcome you, our speaker, Sandra. Sandra is the Innovation Process Manager at Inspiralia, and she has extensive experience in advising most disruptive startups in their search for R&D funding. And Sandra is naturally driven by curiosity and passion for innovative technologies. And I know she's contributed to the success of hundreds of companies by validating projects, identifying the most suitable funding opportunities, as well as preparing for SBIR grant strategy, which she'll give us an intro today. And last, I just want to mention that Sandra is actually currently based in Europe, so it's actually a late evening for her. So I really appreciate Sandra to take the time out of her evening to share her insight and experience with us today. Because of the format of the webinar, I think it will be helpful if we can hold off questions towards the end. However, feel free to type questions as they pop up in your mind in the Q&A box, and then later on, we'll have some opportunity for Sandra to address those towards the end of the presentation. With that in mind, I'll stop sharing and pass it down to Sandra.
Okay, thank you so much, Wenbo. Thank you for the introduction as well, Joseph. And it's all a pleasure. Thank you for having me here. And yeah, the aim of today's meeting will be to walk you through the SBIR program in particular, which is really a great source of non-dilutive funding for your project, for your company. And today we will one second. We will learn on the available funding opportunities within the, one second, please. I'm having a hard time now in sharing this. Sorry. Okay, it should be working fine now. Wenbo, could you please confirm if you can see my screen, if you can see the presentation?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. Okay, so sorry about the technical issues. We are here. So yeah, please let me walk you through the SBIR program, how it works, the funding opportunities, the opportunities, challenges, but most importantly, we will learn on the eligibility criteria and
sorry, Sandra, sorry for the interruption. I think we're seeing your like a master mode, so we can see your current slide as well as the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm guessing you have two screens.
Yes, I guess
Okay.
this might be the reason. Okay, let me disconnect the second screen, and I think then we do not have any problems.
Great.
Is that right now?
Yep.
Okay, great. Sorry again about this. We did try before, but not sure why it's not working now. Okay, so SBIR, we first of all, I would just like to really give you a quick introduction to Inspiralia. We are a multinational group of companies. We have mixed the field of expertise within the business consultancy and private and research and development. In fact, we have started as a product development firm 15 years ago. And from that point, we started working as well on the public funding, which gives us, let's say, sort of an opportunity to give a sort of 360-degree support to our companies when it comes to the R&D funding in the US and in Europe, technical development and identifying growth opportunities. As a company, we are a multinational group of companies. We have in the team over 20 different nationalities. Right now, I think we are 160 full-time employees, out of which 30% are PhDs, which is extremely important for a company as ours to make sure that we speak the same language as you, or that we are able to have consultants that have expertise from your field. And this has led us to be able to successfully back up over 900 companies and raise for them over $500 million throughout their whole career of Inspiralia. We are based in Miami. Our headquarters are based in Miami, but we have as well presence in Boston and Houston. And yeah, this is a very brief introduction to Inspiralia. But let's focus now on the SBIR program, what it is. SBIR is the acronym of Small Business Innovation Research. And this is, in fact, the largest and most important source of federal early stage R&D funding in the US. Its mission is really to stimulate technological innovation and commercialization of innovative technologies. It's backed by 11 federal agencies, which follow their own research agendas, and has an annual budget of $3.3 billion that are allocated yearly to small businesses. The mission of this SBIR program is to sort of use small businesses, the innovative ideas of small businesses, to meet the federal research and development needs. What is important about the SBIR program and the funding that it has to offer is that it's completely non-dilutive funding, which means that you don't have to give up on any equity from your company. It's not a loan either, so you are not expected to pay this money back, and it funds all project costs, so direct and indirect costs. Okay, so clearly it is an attractive opportunity for a startup, but also even for a more established company, because who wouldn't like to receive some free money? But now, who is eligible for this kind of grants? These for sure are small businesses, okay? So by small business, we understand a company that has a for-profit company that has less than 500 employees, and it's US based, and most importantly, majority American owned, which means that at least 51% of shares should be owned by American citizens or permanent residents. And your product, your service should be serving the American economy, population, solving important challenges on the American market, and that you will be actually aiming to perform the R&D activities on American soil. Okay, so these are the basic eligibility criteria for the SBIR program. Now we will see the actual agencies that are backing up this financing instrument. So as I mentioned, there are 11 agencies backing up this program, which are listed on the table on the left side. While we have a look on the right side on the diagram, we can see how the yearly budget, in this case, in the fiscal year of 2019, which was $3.3 billion, how is it structured? Okay, as we can see, the biggest portion of the total budget is always taken by the Department of Defense. Actually, more than half of the total budget is given to the Department of Defense, and then it's followed by the Department of Health and Human Services with the National Institute of Health, Department of Energy, National Science Foundation, and NASA. So these are really top 5 agencies within the SBIR budget. What we can see on the diagram, we have structured them or differentiate them with colors. So we have contracts and we have grants. This is always non-dilutive funding. However, depending on the agency might provide you funding in form of grant or contract. Agencies such as DoD or NASA are typical contractual agencies, while NIH, DOE, NSF, these are agencies that are providing grants. The only difference here is that contract is more commercial. Let's say there are certain deliverables that you are expected to perform that are bounded by this contract, or grants that are really focused more on the scientific research. Yeah, so this is about the yearly budget. We don't have the exact numbers here yet from 2020. Indeed, the budget in 2020 is even higher because of the pandemic. The government dedicated even more funds, allocated additional funds for technologies that are for companies developing technologies COVID-19 related. So probably by the end of the year, we will have the final summary of the total budget in the fiscal year of 2020. But on a general level, it's always around $3.3 billion. And let's say this is how usually the money is spread within the agencies. Okay, so we know more or less the agencies that are backing up the program. Now, how this program is structured. So as we can see on the slide, there are three main phases. Okay, obviously the duration, the funding, this all varies between each agency, but on the general idea is that this is a three-phase program. Phase one usually is a concept development. The duration might be from 3 months up to 12 months. And the funding as well varies between the agencies, starting from $50,000 to $256,000. And phase one usually is a gatekeeper to be able to access phase two. Phase two, as you can see, it's definitely more attractive because of the higher funds that are involved, somewhere between $750,000, $1.5 million, or even more. And then it's followed by phase three, which is called commercialization. Usually there are no SBIR funds involved. Okay, the idea here is that with the funding provided in phase one, phase two, you should get closer to a commercialization stage and become more attractive to private investors to attract additional funding. But in certain cases, there are as well additional funding. There is additional funding from the SBIR given for companies that require further funds, maybe to repeat phase two. So let's say extend the duration, extend the funding, really depends. But again, most importantly is that it's 100% of the funding goes to your project. So there is no equity involved. And the fact that you can submit multiple applications, okay? So we will see, right now we will discuss the top 5 agencies, so the agencies that have the highest budget allocated each year, and the opportunities that it has to offer. So you really can, depending on the project, you might apply to different opportunities simultaneously, okay? Not sure, Wembo, if we have questions, or shall we wait till for the Q&A session at the end?
It's up to you, but since you asked, we do have a question from Dev, which is that I guess this is regarding eligibility. Can small business be a small public company with less than 500 people?
Sorry.
The question was on eligibility. Can a small business be a small public company with less than 500 people?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, so it's a small business concern, which means that, first of all, the company should have a physical location, and you should have less than 500 employees. So I would say the eligibility criteria are pretty flexible and really welcoming any company. But yeah, okay, so when it comes to questions, feel free everyone to drop any questions you like, and maybe to facilitate the process, we will revise them at the end of the presentation and go for them one by one, or maybe some of them might be already addressed with the presentation. All right, so how we can differ the SBIR program. This is our Inspiralia way of differentiating the agencies. We like to categorize them by top-down and bottom-up agency. What do we mean by top-down, bottom-up? Top-down are the agencies that announce certain solicitation topics, funding opportunities, where they request certain type of technologies, solutions to be developed. And as an applicant, you should meet their exact needs for the type of technology or research area. While so for the top-down agencies, we understand agencies such as Department of Defense or Department of Energy, NASA, or the EPA. While the bottom-up agencies are definitely more friendly, which means that they have very wide range of topics, areas in which they invest. Okay, they are not that specific in terms of the solution, how this should be done. And they welcome really disruptive, innovative ideas. Okay, so let's have a quick look on the top-down agencies, but let's say the main focus we will put on the bottom-up agencies, which I think as well that it's always easier to find a fit for a startup. Okay, so top-down agencies. The top three top-down agencies are Department of Defense, Department of Energy, and NASA. When it comes to the Department of Defense, as we saw earlier on one of the slides earlier, this is the agency that receives the largest portion of the total budget that it's allocated each year to the SBIR program. And the mission of this agency is to invest in the technologies that can serve to protect better the nation, enhance the warfighting capabilities. But what is important when it comes to the Department of Defense, when you think, okay, do I have a solution that might fit them? I'm not working on weapons or really specifically defense-related solution. The answer is that yes, you still might be a good fit, because when we have a look on the focus areas, there are focus areas such as battle space or sensors, weapons, where are really strictly defense focused. But there are as well areas such as electronics, informational systems, IT, or chemical, even human systems, biomedical, that the Department of Defense needs. So it's always worth it to have a look and see whether your project idea, whether your technology might serve the DoD department. And actually today it was the deadline for the DoD, but there will be next one in February. Okay, when it comes to the Department of Energy, this department works collaboratively with 13 program offices. They have more than 60 technical topics and more, somewhere around 250 subtopics. And the topics always need to support the DOE mission, which is within the energy production, energy use, renewable energies, energy sciences, and environmental management. How to apply for this grant opportunity? There are 2 deadlines per year in which you can submit an application. Okay, there was one on Monday, this Monday, and the next one will be in February. So how it works is that they will be issuing a list of topics, a solicitation topics, in November, at the beginning of November, where companies can get familiar with the solutions, technologies that DOE is looking for in this submission deadline. And then you have time till February 22nd to submit the application. When it comes to the DOE, the way how they manage this program is that they have 13 offices, and then right now in the deadline of February, there will be 9 of these offices participating. So these offices indicates the research areas. Okay, so as you can see, cybersecurity and energy security, energy efficiency, high energy physics, environmental management, nuclear energy, and so on. Okay, when it comes to the funding that it has, that it provides, as we know already, there are 3 phases usually. Phase 1 is $200,000 for 6 or 12 months. This depends on the type of activities that you need to perform. And once you finalize phase 1, you are able to apply for the phase 2 grant. In this case, in the DOE, they offer maximum grant of $1.4 million. And the time between 12 months and 24 months to develop the R&D activities that you proposed, with an aim to get closer to the commercialization stage. What is important for DOE? We know already the type of technologies which are here, or areas in which you should operate as a company, but most importantly is as well that the project should be a kind of early stage of development, but at the same time, DOE is really looking for companies that have a clear commercial potential. Okay, so project should be at early stage, but at the same time, you should know already how you will be able to commercialize this idea. That's very important. And the third type of top-down agency is NASA, which in this case invests in projects around energy, power management, engineering, aerospace, materials, navigation, communication, and so on. So all technologies that may fulfill NASA needs. Okay. They have 1 deadline per year. So as you can see, each agency follows its own agenda. DOE was 2 times per year. NASA, in this case, they only accept applications once per year. For the year of 2020, there was the deadline on April. And let's say the submission window started in January. So for the year of 2021, we don't have the exact dates yet, but based on the historical submissions, we expect the solicitations to be announced early 2021. So if you operate as a company, as a technology within the fields of propulsion systems, energy, as well IT, navigation, communication, please pay attention to the solicitation topics from NASA. When it comes to this funding, how is it structured? Again, 3 phases. Phase 1 for NASA, in this case, it's $125K to develop the concept idea. Then phase 2 to develop the prototype within the period of time of 12 months up to 24 months, then $750,000. Okay, so these were really briefly the biggest top-down agencies, and let's have a look on bottom-up agencies. So again, usually these are more flexible when it comes to finding a good match for your project idea. And we will discuss the NIH, the NSF, and the Air Force. So this is a program out of the DoD, very interesting one, my personal favorite. But let's have a quick look on the National Institute of Health. The NIH is a part of the US Department of Health and Human Services, which in fact is the largest biomedical research agency in the world. It's composed of 27 separate institutes and centers that follows their research agendas. And they have open calls for SBIR. And given the big number of institutes and centers, as long as you operate within the healthcare field, for sure there is a fit. There will be a fit. So in general, this program is dedicated to all technologies, tools, methodologies, that innovations that that have the potential to significantly advance the healthcare field. When you can submit the application, there are 3 deadlines per year. There was one in September, and the next one will be at the beginning of 2021, January 5th. When it comes to the NIH, they have, as I mentioned, they have open calls. They have sort of omnibus solicitation, which means which is an equivalent of open call, but they have as well targeted calls. So these are special solicitation calls from very specific, from certain institutes that have a very specific need or sort of urgency to find new solution for certain issues. Okay, but in general, the NIH, as I mentioned, there are 27 institutes, too many to list them all. So I just listed a few examples, such as the National Cancer Institute, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Institute of Mental Health, Eye Institute, Heart, Lung, Aging Institute. So again, as long as it's your technology is addressing some health related challenges, pain points, you might give it a try. Or let's say when one of your goals is, for instance, to do clinical trials, again, this is how you can fund these activities. How the funding is structured, this has it has phase 1. It's maximum 256K. Okay, this is just an example from one of the projects. 6 months of project study. Then phase 2 for prototype development, or for instance, if we take into account a project that needs to do clinical trials, for instance, you could maybe think of preclinical trials in phase 1, clinical trials in phase 2, and in this way get closer to the commercialization. For NIH, in this case, since healthcare projects usually require big amount of funds, they consider as well, sometimes for specific cases, an option for a company to sort of repeat phase 2 and get additional funding to do so. Okay, National Science Foundation, the NSF. NSF is an agency that invests a lot in the field of science and engineering. They yearly invest over $7 billion in research funding, out of which 200 millions are dedicated directly to small businesses. They fund around 400 projects yearly. And the SBIR NSF program is dedicated really to any groundbreaking technology that has a potential to have an impact on a broader public. Okay, so they invest in high risk, high potential, early stage technologies. They have at NSF an open call for very wide variety of topics. This is why, again, we call them a bottom-up, which we will see on the next slide. The only thing to keep in mind if you have, for instance, healthcare project, is that the NSF usually is not that keen to fund activities such as clinical trials or activities, R&D activities that would require human subjects. They more invest on type of activities that are related to computer science, to engineering, design, and so on. How and when you can apply? There are 4 submission windows opened during the year. There is one in December and the following one, which will be in March. If you consider to apply for NSF, if you haven't started working on the application yet, December might be already too challenging to prepare the application. I would rather suggest March. Why? Is because the NSF has 2 rounds of project evaluation. So obviously for any agency, you need to submit a proposal to enter into competition to get the funding. But for NSF, you as an applicant, you should submit first a 3-page project pitch to let's say sort of summary of the project to be submitted prior to the full proposal, and only if the NSF gives you a green light, you can then submit the full proposal. Okay, so because of this reason, we usually need some time to submit both of these applications. And on this slide, I wanted to show you the list of topics that NSF has. And as you can see, it's a very wide range of areas that they invest in, starting from with advanced materials, AI, going through nanotechnology, Internet of Things, environmental technologies, power management, space, medical devices. So it's really a wide range of topics, but still, if you're not able to find a matching one for your type of technology, and if your technology is early stage disruptive, there is even a topic which is called other topics. So truly, most likely you are able to find a match. What I would like to mention here, what I would like to bring your attention to is that if you are working on healthcare related project, we already know that there is NIH, but here in NSF as well, they have topics such as medical devices or biomedical technologies, digital health. So again, this is just an indication for you to keep in mind that you can play around with the funding opportunities and apply to more than one agency. And for instance, if you're working on a medical device, perhaps you can work on the engineering portion with the NSF funding, and then human-related activities fund them with the NIH. Okay, so just to give you an idea how to prepare sort of SBIR grant strategy. And yeah, when it comes to the funding that it's involved, phase 1, it's $256,000. Early stage, usually somewhere around proof of concept. Okay. So you use the phase 1 to establish a sort of technical merit of your solution, prove that it can work, and then with that apply to phase 2 and work on the actual fully working prototype, for instance, and fund it with the NSF money. So the maximum $1 million and a project duration between 12 months, 24 months. What else about NSF? They have phase 3, or sometimes what they call it phase 2B, is that another opportunity on top of having non-dilutive funding is that once you are in phase 2, if you are able to attract private investors, okay, so if you are able to get money from private investors, during the time, the NSF will match this funding. And for every $1 that you get from a private investor, they will give you additional $0.50. Okay, so there is a cap at 500K, $500,000. But yeah, it's an extra opportunity on top of the funding in phase 1 and phase 2. And now, as I mentioned, my favorite one, AFWERX. So AFWERX is a relatively new program. It started, it's a new program from the community from Air Force, so from the Department of Defense. It started by the end of 2017. So it's relatively new if we compare it to the general idea of SBIR that it's working since the 80s. And this is a very open topic program. AFWERX, in fact, they are sort of innovation hub of Air Force. Okay, so the idea here is to invest in innovative technologies that are not necessarily defense related, but that can be of help to the Air Force and the military in general. So this is an open topic program. As I mentioned, they are looking for commercially available technologies. And the goal of this program is to find a DoD customer for your solution. So it's sort of an entry point for a company to do business with the DoD. Okay, and unlike the programs that we have seen, agencies that we have seen earlier, this particular agency is investing as well in solutions that are already commercially available. So not only early stage, but solutions that are already on the market and have a potential to be adapted to the military needs. Okay. So in this case, you get a contract from the Air Force to figure out, first of all, in phase 1, what are the pain points within the military? What are the benefits that your solution can bring? And how this solution can be adapted? What kind of R&D can be done to serve to the military? So how is it structured? Again, 3 phases as always. However, phase 1 here, it's a very, it's sort of vehicle to get into phase 2. Phase 1, it's quick, short and sweet, 3 months of time, $50,000. And in this case, it's the money that it's not provided to you to perform a technical development of the solution, but to perform a business feasibility study. Okay, so to clearly identify who will be the prime potential Air Force end user. Okay, so your client from the military, it can be Air Force, but it can be any component of the Department of Defense. So it could be Army, could be Navy, Air Force, you name it. It can be even a military hospital. Okay. So the idea here is that you submit an application, you showcase your technology, your project, what it's able to do, the benefits it brings. And then once you enter into phase 1, you get the 50K and 3 months of time to do the networking within the military and find a client. So to sign letters of interest, intent, and most importantly, get a client that will be willing to sign a memorandum of understanding, and with which you will be then submitting the project to phase 2. Phase 2 provides you a funding of $750K up to $1.5 million, but usually it's $750K for the R&D. They call it prototype development, but in fact it's an R&D to adapt your solution according to their needs. And the end goal here of this program is to get into phase 3. Phase 3 is when a procurement contract may follow. So in other words, you end up with a paying customer out of the DoD. And yeah, that's the idea of this program. Why it's my favorite one is because of its dynamic and the fact that they are really in AFWERX flipping the idea of SBIR on its head. First of all, when it comes to the how fast the results are coming. As soon as you submit the application, you have the results usually 1 month after the submission, which is extremely fast for some of you that might have applied to SBIR before. Sometimes the process of evaluation of your project can take even 4 months, 6 months. So here having results in 1 month, it's extremely fast. And if you are selected, you get to sign this contract and you have the money on your account. Yeah, when it comes to the submission deadline, there was a deadline today, which actually has been extended. Last night, the DoD decided to extend it till Tuesday, 27th. Okay, but otherwise, there will be new list of solicitation topics released early November, and the submissions will start in January and finish in February. So if you think you might be a good fit, that's a good time. Okay, so that was a very fast way of walking you through the main agencies backing up this program. As you can tell, there are a lot of details, differentiation points between each agency in terms of timelines, funding, type of activities. So it's a lot to discuss, probably impossible to wrap it up in 30 minutes, or even 1 hour. It's not enough, but it's just to give you an idea of the funding opportunities within the SBIR program. We in Inspiralia, we think that really if you have an innovative project that is serving the population or solving important issues, challenges, and have a good commercial potential, you probably are able to make it. And I really highly suggest and recommend this program to all startups, and not only startups. The only issue and challenge sometimes for the companies is to really understand how to find a good fit. When I have to submit, how do I need to put it on the paper, and so on. So this is why in Inspiralia we sort of consider ourselves as a bridge between the companies and federal funds. Okay, so our aim is to support companies with the federal funding process, starting with figuring out to which agency you should apply, actually taking care of writing the application and all paperwork to give you access to these grants and contracts without putting you at a disadvantage to be in the need to reach out to private investors. So obviously, at any company, you require funding. The easiest way sometimes is to go to private investors, but there is a price for that. So this is why I would highly suggest non-dilutive funding and mix them, de-risk the technology with the funding from the SBIR, and then probably as well get more attractive for private investors. And yeah, get a great success as a company, as a business. Just quickly, how we in Inspiralia can help you if you are interested. Our process is, first of all, to evaluate all different solicitation topics and agencies based on the technology field, R&D activities that you need to perform, and in this way to find the best match. And then our team of technical and business people takes care of creating the proposal, writing the scientific aims, the work plan, budget engineering, and so on. And once you enter into the award, we support our clients as well with the award management. So with project management activities in terms of reporting, budget follow-up, and let's say all the bureaucratic part of being an awardee. Sorry, everyone, it's a lot of talking. Yeah, as Inspiralia, we partner with many incubators, VCs, accelerators, associations such as IEEE, and I would like to thank you very much again, Winbo, for inviting me here today and having an opportunity to connect with you all. We also in Inspiralia we hold many workshops across office hours across the US. Obviously, because of the situation, unfortunately, it's not possible at the moment to connect face to face, but we always appreciate opportunities such as this one to connect with you all during the webinar. And just to wrap it up, not sure what is the timing.
You have a couple questions in the Q&A.
Yes. Okay. Let me have a look.
Yeah. So first question from Victor is funding based on the size of the company? Are there limits to companies to become eligible within the application cycle for grants for health sectors like the NIH?
Okay, so no, the funding does not depend on the size of the company. Okay, the only eligibility criteria is that you are a small business concern, which means you have less than 500 employees. But the funding only differentiate between the agencies. They have sort of maximum amounts that they can dedicate in phase 1 and phase 2 respectively. Okay, so in case of NIH, it's $256,000 in phase 1. And for phase 2, I think maximum seen it's around $1.7 million. Okay, so obviously the more funding you request, it all needs to be justified with with a budget, with a proper budget, and with a proper work plan. Okay.
Great.
I hope this answers the question.
Thank you. Follow-up, a question that came to Joseph. Can someone work for the US government apply for SBIR/STTR?
Yes, yeah, as long as let's say that there is no clear conflict of interest. But yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And a question from Dev. How does Inspiralia get paid?
Yes, so how we work, our business model is majority based on the success fee. Okay, so we do apply an initial upfront cost that varies between the agency, but to give you an idea, it's depends on the agency, so it's somewhere between $4,000-$10,000. Initial writing fee to kickstart the work on the project, which includes the proposal writing, registration of your company on all the necessary portals, assignment of the full writing team, etc. And the rest of the fees, where revenues are coming from, are really from the success fees. So the idea is that it is really to put all our efforts into making the applications successful and get paid through the success fee.
Great, thank you. We also have a few questions on the Q&A form. First question is, what is the from Gerfras? What is the website for the Air Force WERX?
Yes, so you can please type even in Google DoD AFWERX, and it will pop out. The current deadline is on it's AFWERX 20.3. And the submission deadline was supposed to be today, but was extended to October 27th. Okay, for the following one, please type AFWERX 21.1, which means first submission deadline of 2021.
Thank you, Sandra. Our next question on the Q&A list is, after receiving the grant, is the professional accounting needed to show the agency how the money is spent?
Yeah, yes, so it's obviously it's not a requirement for you to hire an accounting firm that will be taking care of this, but usually as a small business, it's hard to combine taking care of the actual technical development and spending the money and doing the research and development, and at the same time follow up with the paperwork. So this is where support such as we provide at Inspiralia might become handy.
Great, thanks, Sandra. Another question from Jing: can part of the SBIR work be subcontracted out to external companies?
Very, very good question. We haven't touched on this area, but that's a very good question. So yes, you can outsource part of the grant, but it's important to keep in mind that you can outsource only up to 1/3 of the award, okay, in phase 1, and up to half of the award in phase 2. Meaning that you, as a small business, you are expected to perform the majority of the R&D in-house. Okay, so means that you should have, let's say, the right resources in terms of the team, in terms of the facility, equipment to take care of the R&D. But yes, you can definitely outsource certain parts of the work.
Great. And a question from Victor: what are the acceptance rates through NSF/NIH?
The general Success rate on let's say on the American level, it's around 14%, which is relatively low. But let's say in Inspiralia, our success rate is 62% in phase 1 and 87% in phase 2.
Great, that's very impressive, Sandra.
Yeah, so when it comes to the acceptance rate, it's that there are obviously many aspects to keep in mind. How to make your application successful. First of all, and one of the key aspects is to validate your idea. So to make sure that your project perfectly fits the solicitation topic from the agency, okay? Because obviously these rates on the general level are pretty low, because there are companies that think always, okay, I will give it a try. But if it's not perfectly fitted, I mean, the competition is huge, so most likely it won't go through. So what we do in Inspiralia, and for what's really important for us, is to evaluate the project first of all. And this is what I would like to offer as well to all of the attendees. I will be more than happy to arrange a talk, one-to-one talk with all of you, and discuss your project, and then perform the actual validation of the project to figure out which agency is the best fit, what kind of R&D would be really accepted or not, because again, there are certain requirements in terms of the type of activities that might be funded or not, how much you can outsource, and all of these kind of details. So if you're asking yourself which agency is the best fit, or are your R&D goals aligned with the SBIR program, who should be my principal investigator, so a key person here that will be leading the project, what is the right solicitation topic, please you feel free to reach out. I will be as well sharing my contact details, and I will be happy to have a more detailed conversation.
Perfect, thank you, and appreciate it, Sandra.
So Sandra, this is Joseph. Would that be the validation that will be after the company signed a project with your company, right?
No, sorry. This is the validation. It's something we do completely free of charge. Okay.
Wow,
it's
that's
not
great.
binding. It's not binding in any way, because even for us as a business, for us it's extremely important to grow our success rate, our prestige as a consultancy. So we also sometimes are kind of picky in terms of projects we want to work with, but it's only because we would suggest a collaboration only if we see the project as a winning project, which means the project is perfectly aligned with the agency, and we feel confident as well in terms of our internal expertise to handle it. Okay. So because of this reason, it's free of charge, and I highly suggest to companies that are considering or maybe have been thinking about SBIR but never done it. This might be the first step to figure out whether it's worth of digging more into it. So I would highly suggest that.
Yeah. Now I work with a lot of startups, and I found sometimes because a lot of the founders are all coming from a technical side. So the first thing they do is they thought about creating a solution to fix the problem they perceive, without really scanning the market if they have competitors, or how the product actually eventually get to the market. So having your companies help to to do a first level of validation, I think, especially with no cost, I think that's a great service to the early stage startups or people who have good ideas and haven't made the commitment yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Do we have any more questions? I guess that's all the questions we have. Sandra, thank you so much for joining us today and giving us an insightful talk. For those of us who are very excited after the presentation, would you be able to share your contact? Perfect. Okay, I'll leave this here for a few seconds for people to write it down or to take a screen capture. So yeah, Sandra, thank you very much for joining with us today. And for all the attendees, thanks for joining us as well. And if you'd like to be engaged for future webinar series, please look at the link that Joseph sent out in the chat box. And if there's any additional questions, feel free to reach out to Sandra, and she gratefully shared her contact here, as well as reach out to Joseph, who's the chair of the Startup Special Interest Group.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Sandra, and thank you, Wenbo, and everyone who joined. And I look forward to seeing everyone again in our next webinar.
Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.